Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Jaya Giridhari Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Jaya Gopijana Yasuranandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasuranandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Ramutira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Saranandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Tagora, Hare Bala. Nitya Gaura, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Nitya Gaura, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahanse Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Gauda Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Need to take that whole thing in the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Morning, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 5. Sri Sukaruvacha Iti Bruvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasa Shishnas Charanopadanam Parishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta Sri Sukaruvacha Iti Bruvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasra Shishnas Charanopadanam Prarishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta. Someone else? viduram vinitam sahasra shishna chananoparadam Parishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta Se Sagaro Vatya Ti Bruvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasra Shishnas Chanano Padanam Parishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta Tri Sukaro Vacha Bhuvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasra Shishnas Charano Padanam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta Sri Sukuru Vacha Iti Bruvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasra Shishnas Charano Padanam Parishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta Word for word. Sri Sukarovacha. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Bruvanam, speaking, Viduram, Antavidura, Vinitam, very gentle, Sahasrashishna, the personality of Godhead Krishna, Charana, lotus feet, Upadanam, pillow, Prarishtaroma, hairs standing in ecstasy, Bhagavat, in relationship with the personality of Godhead, Katayam, in the words, Praniyamana, being influenced by such spirit, Muni, the sage, Abhyachashta, attempted to speak. Translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura because Vidura was very meek and gentle. The sage Maitreya was very pleased with Vidura's words, and being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. Purport. The word Sahasrashishna is very significant. One who has diverse energies and activities and a wonderful brain is known as the Sahasrashishna. This qualification is applicable only to the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna and no one else. Personality of Godhead was pleased to dine sometimes with Vidura at his home, and while resting he placed his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura. Maitreya was inspired by the thought of Vidura's wonderful fortune. The hairs of his body stood on end, and he was pleased to narrate the topics of the personality of Godhead, with great delight. Iti Bhuvanam Viduram Vinitam Sahasrashishnas Chananopadanam Parishtaroma Bhagavat Katayam Praniyamano Muni Abhyachashta. Sukadev Goswami said, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura because Vidura was very meek and gentle. The sage Maitreya was very pleased with Vidura's words, and being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. So we see the special position of Vidura. Last week I was describing, of course, how Vidura was formerly a Yamaraj, a great devotee, tasked with a thankless, you could say a thankless service, because the sinners of the world go to Yama, to the abode of Yama, to be judged by their activities and given appropriate sentences. We won't go into it further, but that he is the Lord of that. And it's not that, one is not accountable for their actions. One is very sinful, one is a murderer, then there is reactions. And immediate after the death, the soul is taken to Yamaraj in his subtle body and placed before those who are tasked. It's not always Yamaraj himself. Sometimes Yamaraj comes, but those who are tasked to see what the activities have been over that life, and if it's been very sinful, then that person has to get some reaction. So Yamaraj is overseeing all that, but he's also a very great devotee. It seems, just on the surface of things, that, and I told the story last week, how he was cursed by Mandavya. Mandavya Muni was taken up. There were some thieves who ran into his cave where he was meditating, and the soldiers were after them. And then they rounded them all up, and then the whole lot was sentenced to be killed, and Mandavya was in that group and mistakenly rounded up. And then later on, he admonished Yamaraj and saying that I was innocent, yet somehow or other I was given this punishment, and why was that? And Yamaraj explained, well, when you were young, you pierced the insect or something like that, and so you had to be punished in a similar way. And then Mandavya, of course, gave the argument that, well, I was young. Those children, when they're under 5, they're not held accountable for their actions, so you have made a mistake. You have made a mistake. Now, this is very, very rare for someone like Yamaraj to make a mistake. And sometimes it is the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that someone so learned and all-knowing in one sense, being empowered by the Supreme Person, knowing all these things, made this type of mistake. It's kind of a well-known situation that children up to a certain age are not held accountable for these types of activity because they're so young, they don't know any better. So it's quite well known. So it would seem that this is a very glaring mistake made by Yamaraj, or the attendants of Yamaraj. And so why was that mistake made, and why was it allowed, and so on and so forth. But sometimes these situations are, as I said, arranged by the Supreme Personality of God for some future thing to happen. Just like I remember reading about Keshava Kashmiri, the famous Brahmana Pandit in the time of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who we understand formerly was Nimbakacharya and had taken birth in the Leela of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And he came to Navadvip, and he was very famous for debating everyone on philosophy and logic. And so he was a Digvijay, a very famous, all-conquering debater. And so the pundits there were, they didn't want to lose their reputation. So on pretext, we've got to go out of town for a while. We've got other serious matters to attend to, around about the same time when Keshava Kashmiri was coming there. But Nimai was there, and they met up. And Keshava Kashmiri, he said, I hear you're a teacher of grammar. And there was a conversation that went on. And Lord Chaitanya said, we've heard all about you, how you're such a great pundit, and you know so much philosophy and logic and shastra, and and you're very poetic. We'd love to hear you compose verses glorifying the Ganga. And so Lord Chaitanya knew he was very puffed up and proud and arrogant and conceited, but he flattered him to arrange a certain situation. And so, of course, Keshava Kashmiri accepted that. he was moved by the flattering words of Nimai. And so he composed, it's mentioned there in Caitanya Caritamrita, he composed 100 verses in glorification, just like that. Just like that. You know, these great pundits, they got such memories. I was reading, I think recently was the appearance of Jiva Goswami or something last few days ago, and how Jiva Goswami could memorize. He was such a scholar and he had such an amazing memory. He would compose Sanskrit in his mind and he would etch it on palm leaves with a metal stylus. And when you do things like that, there's no room for error. You know, these days with computer, you make a mistake, he would, and it would be perfect. And this is how things were written in those times. So they had such a mind, Jiva Goswami, and this Keshava Kashmir also. So he just composed and just recited these 100. So Lord Chaitanya, or Nimai Pandit at the time, he said, oh, very, very beautiful. But actually, I found that the verse number 64, there's some very good things about it, but there's also some faults. So Keshava Kashmir, I remember doing a play about this one time. I think I might have been Keshava Kashmir. You're just a teacher of grammar. What do you know about high-level poetry and all the things that are needed to compose these types of... Well, I am a teacher of grammar, but I've heard from higher authorities about these things. I've learnt these things. I may not be a teacher of it, but I've learnt from the higher authorities about these things. So I've just noted in verse... what is that verse 64? And Lord Chaitanya just rattled off the verse. Out of 100 verses, he remembered verse 64, and he said there are 5 literary ornaments here, and they're very nice, and he explained them, but there are also 5 faults. So Keshava Kashmiri was taken aback. He just couldn't believe it. Normally everything he recited was perfect, and he was a big debater and just all-conquering. Just no one could stand before him. So this was his position. So he was just aghast at how he had even made that mistake. And then Lord Chaitanya went on, he said, actually, I didn't want to say, but if you examine what you composed even a little bit further, there are a lot more mistakes to it. And he went on. This whole, you can read all about this. So later on that night, because Keshava Kashmiri was a worshipper of Mother Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of learning, so he prayed to her, and she appeared to him and revealed, actually, you were having a conversation with my Lord, and so everything was revealed. And when Keshava Kashmiri understood that, he came and surrendered at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he became known as a great follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So seemingly a mistake was actually caused by Mother Saraswati and caused ultimately by Lord Chaitanya. Later on, he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya to become actually in one of the inner followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Before he was travelling around just a big puffed up pundit. But now he became very humble and a real follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So why I tell this story, because it's in regard to Yamaraj, he was cursed by Mandavya Muni to become a Sudra in his next life, and we know he came as Vidura. Now, seemingly, the great Yamaraj had to take a birth like that, and it's a great punishment and in one sense a humiliation for Yamaraj to have to take a birth like that. But actually, Vidura was born as a very righteous, noble, and a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we see here in this verse how he got so much extra mercy, even much more than he would have ever gotten as the great Lord Yamaraj. Here we read, first of all, Prabhupada comments on this Sahasra Shirsha. He says it's very significant that, and Sahasra, of course, Shirsha means the head, Sahasra means 1,000. He's got a wonderful brain. What does the Prabhupada say here? The one who has diverse energies, so many diverse energies and activities, and a wonderful brain, the unlimited brain of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, our brains, I speak for myself, are very dull and very limited. Hardly we know anything. But the Supreme Lord's brain is unlimited. And so Sahasrashisha. So Krishna is so wonderful. He can arrange these things, a seeming mistake of Yamaraj and a seeming punishment to Yamaraj. Now he's come as Vidura, and he goes into the most inner. Now here we find that Lord. Now when here it's mentioned that Krishna was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura. Pleased to place his lotus feet. I mean, we're worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And now, generally, when someone worships the lotus feet, it means engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of God. But there, we know, just like on festival days like Sri Krishna Janmashtami and Radhastami, we have the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Sometimes we have it there on the window. We have Radharani's lotus feet, and there are so many different marks on the lotus feet of the Lord. And 19. I have a chart here. A half moon. There's a mark of the half moon. This mark symbolizes how the lotus feet truly provide desired objectives of the devotees. Significant. It signifies it even because Lord Shiva's got the sign of the half moon. There's a whole leela as far as that, but I won't go into that. But he wears the half moon on his head. So all these imprints are there on the lotus feet of Krishna. Here, the bow. This mark reveals that those who take shelter will be perpetually free from all worries and difficulties. This is the meaning of the bow. The sky, there's a certain mark there. It means the sky. It's called Ambara. This mark indicates that the feet are all pervading, just like the sky, throughout the entire creation. The cow hoof, this mark signifies that those who have taken full shelter of uninterrupted meditation on their feet, the great ocean of worldly existence, that water of the world becomes small and insignificant like the water held in a calf's hoof print. The fish on the lotus feet of the Lord signifies that the fish cannot live without water. And similarly, the surrendered devotees cannot live even for a moment without the lotus feet of the Lord. So many like a conch, disc, and so many like that, the god, the flag, the thunderbolt, the lotus, so many signs. So those lotus feet, we're meditating on the lotus feet. So Vidura was so fortunate. Now, there's one incident when Krishna, as an emissary of King Yudhisthira and the Pandavas, had gone to Hastinapur to present a proposal for a final peace between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. This is described very much in the Mahabharata. And there's a very wonderful description. Actually, Krishna had decided to go there, and he went with a huge entourage accompanied Lord Krishna. So, of course, the word was there, and it got back to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, and so they thought that let us welcome Krishna with great opulence. And Duryodhana had a plan that will receive Krishna so opulently, and even the road where Lord Krishna, wonderful description in the Mahabharata, where Lord Krishna was coming with this huge entourage, was coming, chariots. Krishna had gone on his chariot with these 4 horses, a celebrated horse, transcendental horses, confirmed, and he was going in the front, and then others were going behind, and all the road was decorated so elaborately coming into Hastinapur. So everyone had gone out to meet him. Duryodhana, interestingly enough, didn't go out to meet him. He thought he was the real, although Dhritarashtra was technically the emperor, he was the emperor really, and so the emperor, that someone should come to the emperor. He shouldn't have to go. So even he arranged it. Now his plan was that let us woo Krishna and with all these opulences and show of opulence and see how we greet him. And then of course he came and he came into the assembly. He greeted everyone, and Duryodhana had invited him to come and stay at his palace, specifically his palace. So one part of the plan, just even as Krishna's coming, was to make a show of great opulence. And the other part, come and stay at my palace with all the opulences of my palace. And the idea in Duryodhana's mind, this is explained in the Mahabharata, that he wanted to turn him from the Pandavas to the Kauravas. So this was Duryodhana's plan, that he was turning, and if we could, and he thought, I can do it by a great show of opulence and power, and just lavish Krishna with all these things. So he was thinking, now once that is accomplished, when the Pandavas learn that Krishna's come on our side now, they'll lose all heart, and they'll be really easy just to defeat. But there's an amazing conversation when Krishna's sitting there, and Duryodhana makes that offer. There's an amazing, Krishna speaks no holds barred about the offer of Duryodhana. Back to Duryodhana, he says, how can I accept an invitation from you? The Pandavas have great affection and love for me. They are my great devotees. But you have tried to kill them in so many ways. And so Krishna spoke in that way. So Duryodhana was really taken aback. Later on, he thought that, if Krishna's not going to accept my hospitality, then I'm going to imprison him. I'm going to capture him and imprison him and jail him. And if I can't woo him over with opulences and riches, then I'll put him in prison. And then when the Pandavas learn about that, they'll also lose heart. Actually, he came up with this plan in talking to his uncle, Shakuni. Now, interestingly enough, we read that Shakuni was like the personification of the Dwapara Yuga, and especially the cunning and all that side of the Dwapara, and Duryodhana personification of the Kali, not the Kali, not the personality Kali, but he embodied the aspects of Kali. So they hatched this plan. We'll go, we'll let him go out, and then we'll surround him. He had his soldiers. We'll surround him by soldiers, and then just as he's going out, But of course, I think it was Satyaki who kind of found out about that. He told everyone. He told Krishna, and then when it was happening, Krishna just laughed and he showed his universal form, and it couldn't be done. But going back to that point, that Krishna didn't accept the invitation of Duryodhana. And he said, your hospitality is based on deceitful motivation. Krishna knew immediately. Your hospitality is based on that. There's no real affection there. There's no real love there. It's just a deceitful, conceited motivation. And he told him straight. So then Krishna, of course, he received so many other invitations, actually. He said Bhishma Dev extended an invitation, Dronacharya extended an invitation, other Kauravas extended invitation, please Krishna come and stay at my place. And so they were his devotees. But over all of them, Krishna accepted the invitation of Vidura. Even over Bhishma and Drona and so many other well-wishers and devotees, Krishna accepted the invitation of Vidura. So Krishna was really showing a lot of mercy to Vidura, who was formerly Yamaraj. So, the mistake, the punishment, born as a Sudra, although in the royal setting, but still he was considered the half-brother, and not on the same level as Pandu and Dhritarashtra. But still he was accepted, and he was very learned and wise, and he used to give counsel. It was like a prime minister. There's some descriptions of Vidura being like a prime minister. But he was like giving counsel, but he wasn't accepted on an equal footing because of being born from the maidservant. And so, but nevertheless, he was a very, very exalted devotee. So what seemingly was a punishment, in the end, turned out to be great mercy, because who can have such mercy? Imagine Krishna coming to your house and Krishna putting his lotus feet in your lap. In your lap. We are hardly worthy of even looking at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. But Vidura, he is... Now, I read another story of Vidura that, this is in the Nectar Devotion, that one time he was so... And actually, Krishna made a comment about Duryodhana, because Duryodhana offered, come and stay at my palace and dine with us. And Krishna made a comment about that food. I cannot accept that type of food offered by you, Duryodhana. That is contaminated by conceit and envy and lust. Krishna didn't mince any words when he was... And this was in front of everyone. And normally in front of everyone you don't really say, there's some decorum there. But he didn't. He was sitting there and he just laid it on the floor. But then he accepted Vidura and he said, I accept Vidura because he thanked all the others like Bhishma and Drona, thank you for it. But then I'll go and stay at the home of Vidura because his hospitality is given with love and affection, and the food that is offered is with love and affection, and there's no ill motivation. And so this was the position of Vidura. So now Vidura was asking Maitreya to speak about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. So Vidura was such an exalted devotee. And Maitreya knew how much mercy Vidura had received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, the word used here, the Caitanya, these stories, and the hairs standing in ecstasy. Parishta Roma, the hairs standing. Now, Maitreya, just being asked this question by Vidura and understanding Vidura's position, he got in ecstasy just by being asked this question, so much so that his hairs stood standing in ecstasy. And here in the translation, being influenced by Vidura's spirit. So Vidura had so much love and affection for the Supreme Personality of God. So Maitreya became inspired by the question in the presence of Vidura. This is a perfect situation. I think that you were in your class yesterday. You were mentioning about the speaker and the disciple listening, and have to be qualified. The disciple. Wasn't you saying something like that yesterday? Yeah. And so Maitreya was very inspired. So in spiritual life, it's very important. We know utsahan nishyadadya tat kampa sangatyagat sadbi bhakti prasidyati. That Rupa Goswami says we need enthusiasm in spiritual life. The enthusiasm comes by associating with the devotees. So just like in the world, people need to be enthusiastic about things to try to achieve them. If people haven't got enthusiasm, it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve. One has to have enthusiasm, one has to have a certain level of confidence. So Rupa Goswami says that also. In these three, enthusiasm, confidence, determination. You know, if you want to get something, even in materially speaking, you need to be enthusiastic about it. You need to have some confidence that you will be able to do it, and you need to be determined. And you need to follow through. You have to keep going at it. You know, who was that inventor who said that? That failure is something. You know, failure is the pillar of success. But he said something about people have tried to do so many things, but weren't successful because they gave up too early. One of the great inventors, I forget who it was exactly who said that, but because they gave up too early. I have failed so many times, but I stuck at it. And then success came. And the world is filled with people who tried so many things but gave up too early and therefore were not successful. So there's a famous inventor who said that. So Rupa Goswami also says one needs determination, just like in our Krishna consciousness. Now you take that in the material, you take that in Krishna consciousness, so one needs enthusiasm. I was reading a while ago in a conversation Prabhupada was in Hawaii, and he said that I've spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world just based on enthusiasm. Just based on enthusiasm. Of course, he's talking about spiritual enthusiasm, not just mundane enthusiasm. I'm very enthusiastic about engaging in Krishna consciousness and spreading Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all. So one needs enthusiasm, one needs confidence, and one needs determination. So just in the association of Vidura, Maitreya became very enthusiastic. He became ecstatic. Just hearing the question, remembering the position of Vidura, and he became enthralled. So therefore he was inspired to speak. So when someone's speaking to a very enthusiastic audience, the speaker becomes more enlivened. And when the speaker's enlivened, the audience becomes enlivened. Early on, I remember reading a long time ago when Prabhupada, in the early days in New York, when he was giving lectures, after some time, he said that, do you not think that after giving so many lectures and with so many audiences, I've become more enthusiastic and more knowledgeable about the teachings of Lord Caitanya and the pastimes of Radha and Krishna? Do you not think, after speaking, that I have not become even more knowledgeable? So here it is mentioned that Maitreya, being influenced by the spirit of Vidura, he attempted to speak. This is very interesting. He attempted to speak. He's a very good speaker. But here it is mentioned, he attempted. So one who is speaking, I should understand, they should be humble and meek. These are the words. Meek and gentle, actually, are the words used here. Krishna was very happy with Vidura because he was very meek and gentle. Now, we don't find the same thing with Duryodhana. Not very meek and gentle. Now, Dhritarashtra, of course, I've read on many occasions Prabhupada was very critical of Dhritarashtra because, after all, Duryodhana was his son and he was actually the emperor, but he kind of talked about restraining Duryodhana, but he never really did it. And so the father was there, so Prabhupada was critical of Dhritarashtra in that sense. But Duryodhana, he never came across as meek and gentle. And so one of the qualities, of course, of a devotee, especially very advanced devotees, is they're very gentle and very meek. But one has to understand that rightly in the spiritual sense. Meek and gentle with their own qualities, very humble. But in spreading Krishna consciousness, sometimes we have to be bold. We can't be meek. We're too meek and we can't spread Krishna consciousness. We're too meek. So Prabhupada would sometimes use the analogy of what does it say? A lamb at home and a lion in the chase. You heard him say that one? A lamb at home and a lion in the chase. So as far as your own quality, you should try to be humble and meek, gentle. But as far as spreading Krishna consciousness, you're a lion in the chase. But at one time he added, but don't be a lion with the devotees. Be always meek and humble. But when you're spreading, sometimes you have to do some bold things, and sometimes you may be criticized for these things. But you were spreading the Krishna consciousness. So, but anyway, Krishna, he was very happy with Vidura, very pleased. Even he went to his place over and above all other invitations, especially that of Duryodhana, and he was meek and gentle, and he was a very great devotee. And Maitreya became very much inspired just to be in his presence and to be asked so many nice questions by Vidura. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Does anyone have any questions or comments to make on this particular verse today? Yes, Vasu.
Oh, just on that point of success and failure, it was Thomas Edison.
Edison, was it?
I've just got it here.
Oh, okay.
Thomas Edison reminds us to never give up but keep trying. He's often known to have said, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work."
That's a good one. You'll have to send that to me. I like it. I found 10,000 ways what that didn't work, or something like that. Yeah.
Maharaj, I was thinking in that sort of mood of not bowing down before Duryodhana and Krishna. Prabhupada, there was that pastime where Prabhupada met the deputy mayor of Paris. It's in Yogeshwara's book. Have you read that?
Oh, I think we watched it on the there was on Makodasi one time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
he didn't bow down. Right?
No, he didn't bow. The protocol was that when the deputy mayor who's just
yeah, right. Go on.
arrives,
Yeah.
Prabhupada's supposed to get up to greet him.
Right. Oh.
Prabhupada awkward silence. And the mayor's standing there wondering what to do next. And then finally he clicks, this saintly person, I should greet him.
Oh.
And just comes up
right,
and greets Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada's really friendly to him.
Oh, yeah. We were watching it. It didn't show all that, but we watched the video of that when it was at the town hall or something like that.
Huge palace.
Yeah, something like that. We watched it on the video, but that's the back story of it, right? Interesting. Yes.
Maharaj, is there any tips for staying enthusiastic when you are going through failure and difficult time?
Well, you have to be always in Krishna consciousness. If you're always in Krishna consciousness, in one sense, there's no failure. Because when Prabhupada, he made a statement one time when he was being criticized by some of his godbrothers for going and not seemingly having a success, and he was thinking of going back to India in the beginning, and he said, actually, even the attempt is glorious because it's engagement in Krishna's service. So there's no real failure in Krishna consciousness. Even the attempt is glorious. Whereas, the attempt in the material world, if you don't succeed, it's a failure. You didn't get what you wanted. But the attempt in Krishna consciousness, you got what you wanted because you engaged in devotional service, even though externally it may seem it was a failure. But if you're talking about failure in following Krishna consciousness, you have to just keep following Krishna consciousness and try to gain more and more association with wonderful devotees. That association with wonderful devotees will give you more and more strength, and somehow or other just get yourself in the association of wonderful devotees. And that will help you and help all of us to overcome seeming failures. Yes.
How do you always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna? Because you get there's lots of distractions in life, and I know when you chant Mahamantra it's like a crying for Krishna, or like a prayer to Krishna, or it's a mantra to Krishna, but like
So that's your question?
Yeah, sort of like how do you always...
Well, Lord Caitanya said that two things, most important, chanting Hare Krishna always, and associating with the devotees. These two things. And thirdly, if you wear around your neck, Trinadapi Sunichana, a necklace of humility, that would be very helpful for your chanting and your associating with the devotees. Two things, and an extra one is the necklace of humility. And you have to always be doing that. Then you can more and more think of Krishna and never forget him. All right. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was Edison, right? That was Edison in the light bulb. Yeah. The filament would break, and he did that so many times. Yeah. Right. Right. That's the one. That's the story I was thinking of. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Zuckerberg. Yeah.